Hi, everyone, and welcome to Indie Underdogs, a monthly audio podcast highlighting music that deserves a wider audience. And when I say monthly, I really mean whenever I want, because this is the second episode for this month. I'm Mike Harvat, and I'm glad you're here. Let's get started. Okay, folks, I am joined by Nate Parrish. He is a musician from Bakersfield, California, and he is just about ready to release his brand new album, I'm a Wreck, on June 19th. Welcome, Nate.
Hello. Greetings from the West Coast.
All right. So this is a little bit different in terms of the interviews that I usually have on this podcast. I'm talking with people who I have an intimate knowledge of their musical history, of their work as either an independent artist or their work in other bands. But the reality is I am getting to know you as we speak. So I guess tell me a little bit about yourself, Nate. Where do you come from? What's your musical history? What got you to pick up a guitar and start writing songs?
Yeah, so I grew up in California. I'm a beach boy, so I thought about moving out of state, but I think I'd missed the beach too much. So born and raised in California, and I kind of started late with the whole music thing. I loved music growing up. MTV used to play music videos on their channel when I was a kid, and so my mom tells me stories about how I would just stand in front of the TV and dance. I really like the Talking Heads and like the Cars and stuff like that, and so music was in my blood. But I actually didn't touch a guitar till I was 18.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's kind of a late bloomer. I loved it. I think I was just kind of scared that if I wasn't going to be great at it, that I was going to be super bummed out because of how much I love music. So I was just like, well, I'll just pretend to play. But so I remember watching the MTV Video Music Awards. I don't know what year it was. This is sometime in the 90s, and Pearl Jam did a song with Neil Young, as Rockin' in the Free World, and my dad was a big Neil Young fan, and I was a big Pearl Jam fan, so we kind of bonded over that. We watched that performance, and
nice.
Neil Young is doing his thing. I was like, look at this old guy just freaking rocking. And Pearl Jam, Eddie Vedder was on some sort of drugs, I'm sure, and he was doing his thing, but it ruled. And I just seeing those generations come together, and it was really cool. And Rockin' in the Free World, I don't know if you've heard that song, but I loved it. I didn't know exactly what Neil Young was singing about, but I knew he really meant it. Mm-hmm. And whatever he was talking about, there's something wrong in the world, and Neil Young was onto it. And after they finished the song, they just started smashing everything. And you could look it up on YouTube. They broke all their instruments. Eddie Vedder spent a couple minutes just dismantling a mic stand so he could put it into the crowd. And I looked at my dad and I was like, I think I need to do that. Not the break
stuff part or the
yeah,
music
he's like,
part?
wait, to clarify, you gonna break stuff or do you want a guitar? I'm like, I think I want the guitar. And I may break it.
That's awesome.
But probably not. And so I got a guitar, and I started just I had a friend who was a really good guitar player. He was like one of those Stevie Ray Vaughan guys,
Oh,
and,
sure.
I asked him, I was like, hey, can you teach me how to play When I Come Around by Green Day? And he's like, no, I'm not teaching you that crap. And I was like, okay, what about, I think I picked a Metallica song. He's like, no, why do you want to play that garbage? I was like, I don't know, I like it. So he showed me a couple bar chords, and he's like, you're on your own, dude. I'm like, okay, I could do this. And I just, honestly, I never took any lessons. I never met with anyone else again. I just never left my room for the next, 2 years or whatever it was, and just taught myself how to play guitar. And I got into a band 6 months in, and we ended up getting a gig to open for the Huntingtons. I don't know if you're familiar with the Huntingtons. Oh,
nice. Oh, yeah.
And I still love the Huntingtons.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was 18 years old, and I'm like, wait, our first show is with the Huntingtons, and it's not in my hometown. I'm like, dude, I already did it. I already made it. This is what it's like.
Sure.
So I got to open for them, and it was, the greatest thing on earth, and I loved it. And then we broke up the next week.
Oh, wow.
So, but I had I kind of had the bug. So I started other bands, and I did a bunch of punk rock bands in Stockton, and where I grew up. And eventually, I'm a believer. I'm a Christian. So, I had friends who were like, you should get involved in worship music. And I'm like, I don't know, dude. It sounds really bad. So I don't think
Which is accurate a lot of the time.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think
I'm a worship leader too, and I don't like most worship music.
Well, the interesting thing is, so like, I guess my philosophy was, well, if I'm not hearing what I want to hear out of it, then I should probably make that, like,
sure,
fill the gap, so to speak. So I got involved in youth worship, and then I got into an internship. And so before you know it, I was in this like youth worship band in Modesto. I had moved to Modesto. And we started writing our own songs, and I was like the screamer in the band. And
nice.
So we started making our own songs, and our youth group really liked it because there's a bunch of scene kids and everything. And
nice.
So we did that, and somehow we got to record a record. We got signed to Integrity Records at the time, and so all of a sudden I'm in a signed band, and we're touring, and that's my job. And it was weird because I never, ever intended to do anything with worship music. I didn't even know it was a genre that existed, really, apart from, going to church and just being like, oh, yeah, this is terrible. So, but here I am. I'm doing this like rock worship thing. And so I got to tour and do all that. And through that.
So what was the name of that group? I might have heard of you guys.
Yeah, it was called Worth Dying For.
Okay. It sounds familiar to me.
Yeah, we had some success. We had some. We ended up, a song I actually wrote in 2005. Like 6 years later, we finally put out this album, and it like went to #1 on rock radio.
Oh, nice.
But at that time, I had already left the band, so I was like, oh, sick. But
at least you get a royalty check, right?
yeah, dude. My royalty checks are freaking huge.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, so through that, we toured, and I met, we did a tour with Cutlass. And Cutlass was one of those bands I just was like, oh, yeah, I think I heard them, but not really into it. But they were super cool. I don't know if you're familiar with the guitar player, James Mead. He's such a good guy, and he loves, like, heavy music, and he's always telling me about, like, these new bands that he's listening to and stuff, and not what I expected at all. And so we became friends. And then a couple years later, I'm doing worship with my wife, and we're putting out some kind of like Johnny Cash type worship stuff. And then he calls me and he's like, hey, do you want to play guitar? I was like, yeah. And so I went and I don't know if I auditioned. I just sort of did a practice with them, and I did really bad.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And so we had another practice, and I did better. And then we had our first show, and I've been doing that band for 5 years, just a guitar player. And so that's kind of my musical journey of how I sort of stumbled through life, picking up a guitar and then just taking it,
And the next thing you know, you're opening for the Huntingtons.
and then it was downhill from there. But
oh boy!
But it's kind of an interesting. I go through all these doors I never could have foreseen. It was just literally like, if an opportunity came up, I challenged myself to do it. And but through that, I've spent all these years doing all this other kind of music, and I've always been into punk rock at heart. Like my favorite bands are Social Distortion, Ramones, and all that stuff, Pistols. I love the Replacements and all that kind of stuff. I've never really just done like anything just purely like that for myself.
Sure.
And about a year ago, I just decided I did like this project, and I ended up making some money off of it. So I bought a home recording studio because I'm like, it's not going to happen unless I do it myself. And so I just sat down, I picked up my guitar, and I just decided that whatever came out as far as like of my mind or of the guitar, that's what I was going to stick with, and I wasn't going to think about it too much. And I ended up just writing all these kind of songs that have just been kind of in my head for years, and it was really cathartic. There's had some ups and downs through the last couple of years. Lost some family members and stuff, and so it was a really therapeutic thing for me to just, for myself, write a song, sing it, and just be cool with whatever came out. And
Sure.
which is weird because that's kind of like, that's what music is for. But
Right.
but you know, all these years of just being a part of other bands or being tied to a label or doing whatever, you sort of forget like, oh, the guitar and your voice are meant to express like what's going on inside you and what you want to sing about. And so
when you're playing somebody else's song, there's less skin in the game than if you're singing your own words, you know?
right. And even when, you know, when you're leading worship or myself, we're always singing mostly other people's songs.
Yeah.
And you're not like, it's just not, it's like it's a small part of my whatever you call it, me as a person. It's not like there's so much other stuff that I want to express, but being in worship, you kind of feel like maybe you're not allowed to because it's not worship.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, I
You know
mean,
what I'm
it serves a different purpose too. I mean, you're writing, even if you were writing songs for church, that's more of like a congregationally minded thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just sitting down and saying, okay, what's on my heart. I wish more worship songwriters would just do that.
Well,
you know?
Yeah. No, totally. And I think that's why you're talking about, you know, worship music. We're not super into most of it. It's because honestly, it's probably just recycled stuff, recycled thoughts.
A lot of it is, yeah.
And it's a lot of people who...
I mean, and not to be like super cynical about it.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's worship and pretty much every other genre it is a different animal because, you know, you're writing or singing something with other people in mind, truthfully, you know, and I think it is a delicate balance of expressing yourself, but at the same time you're like, okay, can people sing this or can I, you know, or can they understand what I'm saying? And that's great. It serves a purpose. But I think for me, I was at a point where the first song I wrote was Politicians and Celebrities. It's on the album and literally came out of just exactly what it sounds like. It's frustration with, it seems like we're being pushed around and kind of our lives are scripted by people we don't know, never know us, don't think they really care about us, but yet we put all our stock in them. And I just was like, I don't like that. I'm going to write about that.
Politicians and celebrities, they're scripting our reality. Where it means to their end. These people aren't your friends. They just play them on TV. What they watch it on their screens. We say it in the streets. And they want to make documentaries into a horror movie. When it's lights, camera, action.
Right.
So that's where I started. And it was, man, it felt so freaking good to do that and not have to think of, oh man, I hope the congregation can sing this melody.
Right.
You know?
So that's actually an interesting thing that stuck out to me as I listened through the album. I noticed that more than just politicians and celebrities, there's a pretty strong undercurrent of social themes on this record, from politics to cancel culture, the dangers of believing everything you read on the internet, all that stuff. Was that something you were intentional about? It sounds almost like this was just kind of a natural outpouring of, you sat down and this is what came out, or were you intentional at any point of like saying, this is the theme I want to hit on with this record?
No, the only thing I intended on doing was writing and releasing one song a month for a year. And so whatever it is. So when I started in July of July, that was the first song, and that just happened to be, I think it came from like an Alyssa Milano tweet where she was basically telling everyone else how to live their life, and I was like, who are you? Who are you, dude?
Right.
You were on Charmed. I don't, that great show, but I don't really, And I just, out of the frustration of that whole, like, it seems like we became pawns and we're either being pushed around by a politician or a celebrity. So anyways, that's where that came from. And I think the second one I wrote was Everything is Outrage.
The common ground erodes beneath us. We only see in black and
which obviously was another frustration I had, where watching people, just self-righteousness kind of grow, and people making a hobby of going and pulling skeletons out of people's closets, knowing full well that their closet's full of skeletons, like all of ours are.
Sure.
But basically, like, it's a race on who could expose someone else the quickest, basically to prop yourself up and make you look. So just all that kind of stuff that was really bothering me. But I didn't intend on, honestly, like, I'm going to write this political album or anything like that. It's just, honestly, that this is kind of how it came around. And I think towards the end, the last song I wrote was Hope. And this last song on the album, I wrote that in April. So it was a quick turnaround. I wrote it and recorded it like really fast and put it on the album, and I took another song off. But
oh, really?
Yeah, because I had the album done, and then we had the whole COVID thing, and so the quarantine, and I just watched people's lives just crumble, and I was like, I gotta write a song for this, and so
That's awesome.
so I hurried up, wrote it, recorded it, finished it, and it's actually one of my favorite songs on the album.
That's awesome, because like I did see the quarantine music video.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it was even potentially written. I guess, it was written in the midst of everything that's going on. So.
Yeah, totally. I think it was like I wrote it at the beginning of April, recorded it, mastered it, put it on the album by like the second or third week of April.
Yeah, that's crazy. Quick turnaround.
Yeah.
A month later, you got a music video for a song you didn't even have planned for the album.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, this is like, it's just interesting because like even if we had this conversation about your record 2 weeks ago, it just seems like so many of the themes are prescient to what we're currently experiencing as a nation.
Yeah.
Just speaking as a Christian, kind of like sifting through that whole idea of, what evil do I have in my own heart? I can't pretend to have it all together or pretend that I'm better than, these people that I'm even potentially protesting against, right? Like, we've all got to wrestle with, like you were saying, the skeletons in our own closets. And it's just interesting that, I'm sure you didn't intend to release an album in the middle of a global pandemic and civil rights dispute.
I did. You know what? Yeah, this is all part of my elaborate scheme to just really promote the album. But no, not at all. I could not have foreseen any of this. But and I don't usually hyper spiritualize things, but especially like the song "Hope" that we were talking about. You're a musician yourself, so sometimes you have a song that just happens kind of deal. And like that was the weirdest thing. I remember sitting on, my wife has this like little rocking chair, and it's like very not comfortable for playing guitar, but and I wrote it while she was asleep, and like it just came out, and I'm like, like it was almost like sometimes God helps you write a song, or he writes it for you kind of deal. And I kind of feel like he's like, all right, here's the last song for your album. Take that other one off. This is the one.
That's awesome.
So
that's great.
Yeah, it's a weird time, man. But it's hard because there's this new pressure now of, okay, pick a side. What's your stance?
Right.
Post what you are supposed to post, or I'm gonna cancel you, or whatever it is. And I try not to play those games. I'm a musician, and that's how I choose to fight, I guess. So, yeah.
Right on. So, that said, I know we're kind of being light about the fact that you're putting out a record in a unique time. I mean, are you finding, I don't know, what challenges or maybe what changes to your game plan have you had to make in terms of going ahead with a record when, you can't even have a CD release show right now?
Yeah. So
I say CD release, so that shows you how old I am. Like CDs, whatever.
Album
release.
Yeah. No, I printed CDs on purpose because I wanted to, for myself, I wanted to recapture that magic of, part of the fun for me growing up was getting a CD and reading all the notes and seeing what the lyrics were and seeing who they think and who played on what. So
totally.
I wanted to do that. So yeah, we were going to have a CD release. Obviously we're not now, but there is a Instagram account that I stumbled upon. I started working with them and doing like an online music fest, like a 2-day festival.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's called like Christian Rock X, but it's called Contagion Fest. And,
oh boy.
Yeah, but it just so happens that my set is on the 20th, so it kind of is acting as my release, and we'll do our songs quarantine style.
Nice.
All filming at our houses or whatever. But besides that, I already the gears were already kind of going. When I turned in the masters and did all that stuff and finalized it, that was in April. So it was right in the middle of it. And honestly, really the album is for me, selfishly. Like the art and everything of producing it and making it, I did it for myself because I wanted to make music that I wanted to make. And I didn't really think many people would hear it or anything like that. I'm not, I wasn't like, hey, Cutlass, can you throw this up on your Instagram or anything like that? Or I didn't expect to be on any, Christian festivals or anything like that. But actually, it's been doing really well with different kind of online forums and websites and stuff like that, in independent music stuff. So it's already doing better than I expected.
That's awesome. That's great. That's really good. I mean, seeing as we're having this conversation almost 2 weeks before it's released, so hopefully that'll continue ramping up until the day of.
Yeah, it's just kind of, it's cool to you don't know what to expect, especially when you're doing something independent and you're just like, it probably my mom will like it or something, and actually she probably wouldn't like it, but you just kind of do it for the love of it, and whatever happens after that is cool. So it's nice to hear people hear the album and understand it or enjoy it or whatever, inspired by it or any of that. That's all good.
Awesome. So one of my favorite songs on the record is House Made of Mirrors.
We sharpen our teeth for the rewind. The scraping sounds all that we hear. We'll never see change in our lifetime. If we live in a house made of
Man, it's another one of those songs where I think the lyrics hit pretty hard. Just this idea of like the notion of remaining in relationship with somebody even though you guys don't share the same worldview. Like that's starting to die off completely, and I think that this song touches on that. So I don't know if you want to just share your thoughts on it. And
yeah, it's pretty much that. It is a challenge, especially with social media and the internet, to like the people you disagree with. It seems like more and more, and there's, due to outside forces as well, that just kind of want to push wedges between people. It's everyone has an agenda, and so a lot of times we end up in the middle of people's agendas, and it sucks because we talk about, or at least it used to be, we want to find unity, right? We want to have common ground. But for you to be able to have unity or to have a compromise, you, by definition, have to be coming from different points of view, right? Otherwise, it's not a compromise or it's not unity. It's just you guys just are the same. And so that's a foundational element of what actual unity is, and compromise and working together. And we say we want that, but we really don't. What we want is uniformity. We want someone to be like us. And if they're not like us, we kind of have lost the ability to have like civil discourse and to be able to talk things out, so to speak. So what we do now, we don't have patience for that, or we don't have the skills anymore. So we just revert right back to middle school and call people names. Oh, you're a this, or you're a that, or pick whatever buzzword is popular that week, and you label someone that. That way you can avoid having to have your ideas challenged, and maybe you might have to change your mind. Maybe you're wrong, right? And we don't want to admit we're wrong, so the easiest route is to just say, well, that person's a bigot or they're a whatever, so what they say doesn't matter. And then we move on. It's just become commonplace, and it's really dangerous because, I mean, how easy it is to just write someone off because you disagree with them. You don't even know where they're coming from, right? You don't even take the time to have a dialogue about it. And so,
and that's huge too. Is the flip side of that is, like you were saying, having the humility to understand that you might be wrong. So like, canceling somebody or writing them off might be to your personal detriment to like decide I'm not going to have this person in my life. Cause I just, something I constantly point out is at any point in my life, I can look back 10 years and say, man, I was an idiot. So the safest assumption is that in 10 years from now, I'm going to look back at myself right now and say, man, what an idiot. So like I need to be careful not to assume that I got it all right.
Yeah, I think there's if we could learn to start from a position of humility and at least entertain the possibility that we're wrong, because probably we are, then we can get somewhere, but it's just hard. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy. It's hard. No one wants to admit they're wrong. It's embarrassing. Or have to actually change something about yourself. Yeah. That's tough. No one wants to do that. And so now we could just be like, well, nah, you're on that side. You're part of those people. You're one of them. I don't have anything to do with those people. And that's what we do. And it just sucks. So.
Well, hey, I have a musical question.
Yeah.
How early in the songwriting process did you make the decision to add saxophone to I'm a Wreck?
So, I'm a Wreck, not early, no. So there's a guitar riff in there, and as I'm finished tracking it, I really like Bruce Springsteen. I love that kind of American rock and roll thing that he does. And so I have a buddy who plays saxophone, and I've done worship with him before, like a conference, and saxophone just cracks me up, dude. It's just, it's so funny, and not a lot of people play it, There's not a lot of kids who are like, oh man, Dad, can you take me to Guitar Center so I can pick up the new saxophone? Right. So it's kind of rare, and he's really good. And I was like, man, that'd be fun. So I sent it to him, and I was like, bro, I don't even know if this is gonna work, but can you take a shot? And it freaking does. Yeah, it rocks.
That's great.
Yeah, so it wasn't super early. It was kind of as the song was done, and I thought, I heard it in that little guitar riff in my brain. I heard it as like it could be a brass instrument or a saxophone. So I let him take a shot at it, and he nailed it.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then it ended up being on the album opener, so
yeah.
Worked out for him. So who is that played on it?
His name's Chris Bellamy, and he is he's a musician in Virginia Beach. He does a lot of session work and stuff like that. I had met him through a worship conference we do out. They do West and East Coast called the Church Collective.
Okay.
And we had just led worship together a few times, and he did. He we do a set, and it was Reckless Love, and he does the riff from Careless Whisper.
Sure.
During Reckless Love, and it's
really on purpose. Then
on purpose
during worship. Okay.
Yes, and
that's interesting.
I have to turn around because it is beautiful, but at the same time, I'm like, dude, it makes me laugh, so I'm like turning around. And
so that's funny. You're wearing a Kylo Ren shirt. One of my favorite bands of all time is Jars of Clay, and I have a number of live recordings from them. And I think when they played Cornerstone in like 2000 or something like that, they were in the middle of playing kind of one of their mellower tunes, and Steve, their guitarist, he totally put in Leia's theme in the middle of his guitar solo. Like, it was there, like, note for note.
It's a thing. So, like, even in worship, I had a friend that I played with who's a really good musician, and he played keys. And so sometimes there'd be like it was not necessarily an altar call, but like the pastor's wrapping up and you kind of play. Mm-hmm. And I would every now and then I'd whisper to him. I would give him a song to incorporate. And so I would throw Jurassic Park. Like, I would just look over and go, Jurassic Park. That's and great. Sure enough, he'd be playing whatever song, and it would be or like Titanic, and he could do it. He could throw it all in there. But even in Cutlass and stuff, we do King of My Heart, and in our set, and James does the riff from Today by Smashing Pumpkins.
Nice.
He does that. He put that riff in there as like.
Oh, I can hear that. Yeah. I can hear those two being compatible.
Yeah, dude, it's really cool. And so every now and then you'll see like a person in the audience their head kind of tilts sideways, and they're like, "Huh?
Wait a minute.
Wait a second." Yeah, so that's always fun to do.
That's awesome. Sweet. Well, is there anything else you want to let my listeners know about I'm a Wreck? Again, it comes out on June 19th. Where can people get it? Where can people connect with you?
Yeah, so it's going to be available on all the streaming platforms.
You should buy it. Buy it, everybody.
You should buy it. You could get it from me, nateparrish.com. And I'm doing a pre-order package right now. So it's like got sticker and a button and all kinds of stuff. But you can do that. Pretty soon the album will just be available outright. Once it comes out, you can buy it off my website. So that's a good way to do it. You can get all the artwork and stuff and the packaging, which I really had a good time making. But and Spotify, iTunes. Do people actually listen to iTunes music?
I don't know. I feel like even me personally nowadays, either I'm streaming something or if I care about it, I go and try to find the Bandcamp. Like that me. That if I'm going to buy music, I prefer to buy from Bandcamp.
That's cool.
Because you can get it lossless, which is awesome. And B, I just know that more of my money is going to the artist when I buy it through Bandcamp instead of iTunes.
That's true. I do appreciate that. Yeah, we some of the bands I follow, like the Ataris, and they do that. They'll do like a special deal on like a Friday, and they'll put all their stuff on there, some unreleased stuff. Actually, I do need to. I have a few things on Bandcamp, but I do need to throw it up there too. So, but yeah, nateparrish.com.
There's your reminder.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, you can pretty much find whatever if you go to nateparrish.com. It's got like all the links and everything.
Right on. Okay, well, I got one last question.
Yes, here it is. The big question I've been waiting.
On your website, you mentioned that you're into action figures.
Heck yeah.
So what do you collect, and what is your holy grail?
Whew. I like it. Okay, so Mo2, Masters of the Universe, is my big number one thing. So I collect a lot of those. There's been a resurgence, so there's some new stuff that's come out that's really cool, but I like the vintage stuff as well. I guess if I had a holy grail, but I do collect some Joes. I collect Marvel, DC stuff. But I guess if I had a holy grail, I think it's going to be Scareglow from the Masters of the Universe.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with Scareglow, but he's a glow-in-the-dark, kind of like a Skeletor type guy. But he was never in the cartoons or anything. He was just purely an action figure, and I just like glow-in-the-dark stuff.
Man, I'm trying to think back. We totally had all the He-Man stuff when I was a kid.
Oh, it's so good.
I'm just barely young enough that I got more of the like second wave stuff. Like I remember having a He-Man that had like almost like a translucent green sword.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. That might have been like early 90s instead of 80s at that point.
Yeah. There's like a New Adventures of He-Man.
I think I don't know why that's what sticks out to me, but my brother, I mean, he had all the original stuff like Battle Cat, and we had the what was it Gray School that had like the like echo chamber thing that you'd talk into that had like a little spring reverb.
Yeah, that was I think that was Snake Mountain.
Snake Mountain.
Yeah.
See, I'm just barely young enough that like I played with all those toys. My brother was way more into it than me.
Oh, dude, they're great. They're hilarious though, because when you look at them now, and they're just basically like these giant roided up guys that are like
totally.
in squatting position. And He-Man has got like this like bob haircut, you know? It's like it's a real it's very beautiful, but I'm like, that was my toy, a guy in underwears and a fancy haircut, but whatever. He rocks.
Right on. Yeah. Did you see you watched the Toys That Made Us episode on He-Man?
Oh yeah, dude.
Okay.
Yeah, it was so awesome.
Making sure. I mean, of course, if you're collecting He-Man, you know about that.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, it's sort of become a thing now. Like I go to He-Man there's a convention in Southern California called PowerCon, and I go to that, and like people know now. They're like, oh Nate, yeah, he's like the He-Man guy. Oh, cool, that's my thing, He-Man.
That's great.
Yeah,
I was more of a Thundercats guy.
Thundercats are cool. They never fully resonated with me, but they are. I mean, it's kind of in the same boat, same genre probably. But they're cool, but it didn't grab me. Not the way He-Man did, but they are cool.
See, I thought you were going to say Star Wars because you're wearing a Kylo Ren shirt. You got some designs on your website.
Well, I think you know what. So I do love Star Wars, but. I don't know, man. It's the muscle thing. Like I loved Arnold Schwarzenegger growing up, and Terminator is like one of my favorite things. So I think it was more of like when those action figures came out, they were so different. They were just these giant. I mean, they're based off of a barbarian essentially, and so it's so different from the Star Wars figures and stuff, who are basically just like these little tiny. You know, they're cool, but no, it's too much, dude. That's the thing. Once you get into it. There's so much stuff. Because now I'm like, oh man, I should probably start collecting my Ninja Turtles again. Like, dude, I can't.
This is great. So I have a Star Wars collecting podcast that I do with my brother.
Oh, sweet!
Like this is one of the library of podcasts.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I mean, I could talk about this for another half hour, but I guess this is a music based.
Well, yeah.
podcast.
So let me guess your holy grail then. Can I guess?
Sure.
The Boba Fett with the spring action.
Well, of course. I mean,
is that even possible though? Like, are those?
I think that there's like a handful of prototypes that do exist, and I think the last time one sold, it was like $100,000.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Insane.
Well, I could get Scareglow for about 150, so I think.
There you go. Oh yeah.
You might want to consider jumping over.
Okay, folks, what you got to do is buy the album on June 19th.
Yes.
Help fund the Nate Parrish Scareglow Fund. I
need it, guys. This is important stuff. Actually, so people ask me, like, oh, are you going to do vinyl? And that was like my big thing. I really wanted to do vinyl. And but it's just really expensive. And I found a buddy who runs a website. He turned me on to this place where you can pay as you go kind of deal. It makes the vinyl more expensive, but you don't have to order like 100 pieces.
Yeah.
So it kind of keeps the cost down, and I may forego the Scareglow for now and just put it back into getting some vinyl made because I just really want.
That's probably the better decision.
I guess my wife would probably say so, but whatever.
Right on. Well, cool. Hey, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Yeah.
We'll be in touch. It'll be fun to see this thing. Take off, and we'll be sure to remind people the day of, and hopefully folks will get into it.
Yeah, man, hope so. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So collect your cuts and bruises. You learn more when you're losing. Refuse to play it your way, so you won't know our name, and you can call us losers, they say, and we live a different way.
That's it for this month's episode of Indie Underdogs. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on one of the support links at indieunderdogs.com. There's a link to my Bandcamp page, or if you just want to make a direct contribution, you can follow the PayPal link. You can also support the show by following Indie Underdogs on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Indie Underdogs. Finally, Nate has agreed to share the song Hope in full from his upcoming album. If you like what you hear, remember to head over to nateparrish.com to buy I'm a Wreck. Take care, and God bless.
I'm a resident, and I rent this skin that I am in. And I've borrowed every breath I've ever had, and I can't pay it back. And tragedy, it's like radiology. It's an x-ray of my very soul, and I feel it